Hi, this is Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Thank you so much for joining us today for Live with Annie. As usual, we've started the stream a bit early. This helps us get everything set up and broadcasting properly to our various platforms. You can find a countdown clock on the screen showing how long it will be until we actually go live. While you wait, please connect with us and other viewers in the chat. Let us know where you are from and whether you're a new or longtime viewer. We'll see you live soon! Thanks again for joining us for Live with Annie. We are so happy to have you with us today. While you wait for the program to start, we hope you'll enjoy the content playing on screen. There's so much inspiration, so take a moment to tell us what you love in the chat. Don't forget there is a countdown clock on the screen so you know how long until we go live. reminding you that we'll be going live with this week's episode shortly. There is a countdown clock on the screen showing how much time is left. You've got just enough time to grab some water or a beverage of your choice and a snack, and to connect with us in the chat. We'd love to hear what you've been working on this week. Hi, I'm Annie of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. And I just put ice in my mouth and it makes it hard to talk. Whoops. Thank you so much for joining us for episode 27 of season 4 of Live with Annie. Today we are diving into the creative world of quilting with the visionary Gudrun Erla of GE Designs. Gudrun takes traditional ideas and puts a modern spin on them. Her patterns and books are geared toward today's makers, easy and innovative with a contemporary touch. So stay tuned to discover how her techniques can transform your ByAnnie projects into works of art. It is always a pleasure to have you join us, and whether this is your first time joining us for Live with Annie or you've caught all 164 episodes, we welcome you to our community. We know there are lots and lots of things you could be doing with this time, and it really means a lot to all of us that you fit us into your schedule, so thank you. If you enjoy the info that we share, please take a minute to follow us wherever you are watching. And if you know someone else who you think might enjoy it too, please tell them about Live with Annie. The easiest way to do that is to just tag them while you're watching, because that will take them directly to the episode and they can watch it too. Also, we really love reading your comments, so be sure to interact with us throughout this presentation. We love knowing what you think and learning from you too. And if you've got any questions, just enter them in the comments or chat and we will do our best to answer them before we close. So last week we showcased ways to create fabulous new fabric panels using pre-quilted soft and stable. I am working on a tote bag using the fabric panel that I showed, and it is turning out great. I especially love that it will be made entirely from fabric pieces that were destined for the trash bin. If you missed last week's episode or want to watch it again, remember that you can find all the previous 164 episodes of Live with Annie on our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, or at ByAnnie.com. And we've put up all the links to make them easy for you to find. Quick drink of water before we get started today. So, as I said, today I am really excited to welcome my sweet friend Gudrun Erla to Live with Annie. Gudrun is the designer and owner of GE Designs, which is based just west of the Twin Cities in Minnesota. She has published patterns and books, as well as designed groundbreaking tools for quilting for years, including her best-selling Stripology Rulers. Gudrun and I taught together in Norway last year, and it was amazing to hear how our business trajectories have taken similar paths over the years. And as we talked, we both realized that combining her unique techniques with our patterns could yield some amazing results. I can't wait to share more, so please help me welcome Gudrun to ByAnnie Live.
Oh, audio.
Let's check. Can you hear
There
me
you go.
now?
Yep, there you go.
Hi, Annie. So great to see you, even though we're not in person this time, but it's the closest thing we can have.
I agree. It's almost like being live together. Being able to see each other's faces makes such a difference. And it is such a treat to have you here, because we have really been talking about this for a long time, since last November for sure, maybe even before that.
Exactly.
You have such an interesting personal background, Gudrun, so I like it if you would start by just telling us a little bit about where you grew up, your family, and where you live now.
Yes, so I am born and raised in Iceland, so I should just tell everybody how to pronounce my name. If you were in Iceland, it would be Gudrun Erla Gísladóttir, but everybody calls me Gudrun, of course, and so everybody's allowed. I've been in the States for over 20 years, and quilting brought me here. So I started quilting early on in my early 20s, and the bug hit me really hard, so it escalated fast. I opened up the first Icelandic online quilt shop back in 2000. And from there, that's when I started designing patterns. And they then brought me to the States in 2003. So I've been designing under GE Designs for a long time and creating kind of faster and easier ways to do things. That's kind of my drive and my motto. I love to create things that might look complicated, but they really aren't, because the techniques are very easy to do for anybody. So that's my passion, and which probably brought me into the world of rulers, and particularly the big mama, the Stripology Ruler.
That's so awesome.
There are 4 of them, actually. Yeah.
Wow, 4 of them now. You've grown. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I loved talking to you about Iceland when we were together in Norway, and hearing about everybody going swimming there. That was such a surprise to me. It's not what I picture happening in Iceland, and how that was kind of the place to hang out. And that's where all the kids went, like the corner drive-in or something. It was the swimming pool. Yeah.
And it's really still like that. And I love that about Iceland. You know, we have such a plethora of hot water with the geothermal water. Most houses are heated via geothermal water. And so every tiny little town in Iceland has a local swimming pool, and usually outdoors, because they stay warm and nice all throughout winter. So it's the best thing to be outside, even in the winter, and just cuddling in the pool, or the hot tubs is where I prefer to stay these days. But that was just a thing, you know, after school or after the kids' activities, you know, sports and stuff, the family went to the pool, and, you know, everybody got a good bath.
Right.
Pajamas on after the pool outing, and you kind of get together with friends and neighbors and talk to everybody, and then everybody goes home worn out and happy.
Goes to bed.
So
what a great way to end the day. I remember us getting in the pool while we were in Norway. I also remember that there was a little concern at the beginning that there was a volcano that might erupt in Iceland as you were trying to get there. I had come in a couple days early, so I was there, and we were a little worried whether or not you were going to make it. Once you did make it, I remember thinking that volcano can just go and ahead and erupt, and we'll spend a couple weeks here if they cancel the flights. But
that's fine.
That didn't happen, but it would have been fun too. So that was such a fun trip.
Yes, it was. And wonderful food we had at that place. It was just wonderful. Great people.
Yep. I remember you eating the with gravlax for breakfast every day.
Yeah.
And how many how many varieties there were of it. It was amazing. All right, so
Yes.
again, you told us a little bit about what inspired you to start GE Designs. How did you really develop your signature style and the rulers? How did that come about?
So my growing up in Iceland and starting to quilt in Iceland, the one thing that, when you're living on an island, you kind of tend to use what you have because that's available. And so I was also a busy mom, young kids, so I didn't have much time to create. So my goal was always to figure out a way to do things a little bit faster so I could get more done. So that's my first ever pattern that I published was a quilt as you go table runner pattern called the Braid Runner. And that's really what took off and brought me to the States. And so ever since then, I've been dabbling in creating quilt as you go patterns because people just tend to want more and more. And it's a technique where you start with your whole piece of backing and batting, and then you're piecing your unit or whatever you're making through the layers. So you're piecing and quilting at the same time. So all you got to do is put the binding on when you're done, which is really great. So that's where it started, and that's where that trying to do things faster and easier started, and it continued on into just regular piece patterns. And then I was approached I was working with Creative Grids a little bit. They wanted some more ideas to use their specialty rulers for. And they had asked me, would you ever be interested in creating a specialty ruler yourself? And me being coming from Iceland, I was never really a specialty ruler kind of girl. All my patterns were just done with basic rulers because that's what you have. If I would have ever wanted to do a pattern that needed a special tool, I would have to wait for weeks to get it. And then, the idea passes. So I thought, though, right away that we could probably create a tool together with Creative Grids' beautiful grip that they have on all their rulers, their wonderful accuracy, and all of their acrylic tools. We could create the most amazing slit ruler that you can use for whatever pattern you're working on, not just my pattern. So that's where the first Stripology ruler kind of came to be, and I could add all of those cool lines and markings and things, so you could take it so far beyond just cutting strips and subcutting into rectangles and squares. So that's kind of where that journey started, and that is now coming to its 10th anniversary this year. The first Stripology ruler came out in November 10 years ago. So we're excited to celebrate that this year.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and you guys have really grown in the past, since COVID, basically. Haven't you just kind of your whole business has just exploded?
Yeah, everything changed, I think, for a lot of people. And I think for us, because I know you were doing the same thing, traveling all over teaching. For us traveling teachers, we were booked maybe 2-3 years out, and we had full schedules. And then, that March 2020, everything came to a halt, and all of a sudden you had an empty calendar. So we went online. I was already doing live shows on YouTube and Facebook. So I turned right away online. I had so many people out there waiting to come to class with me. They had all their fabrics and everything. I just felt so bad for them. So I started this quilt along. I did a quarantine quilt along with the Elvira quilt was the first one. It just blew up from there. We had almost 20 something thousand quilters that downloaded that free pattern, and we were all sewing that in one day, everybody at their homes. And it was people from 37 different countries because this was, pandemic universal. So it really changed everything. I started carrying more fabric because people wanted to sew and they couldn't get their hands on fabric. And it just kind of escalated really fast for us. And so now I have no time to travel. I would have to clone myself. I know, I have no time to even figure out how to get on vacation, but it just changes everything, and not necessarily in a bad way. Being on the road wears you out and kind of breaks you down at times. So I love variety. So being able to pivot and do different things has been just a blessing and really fun for us to build our little family business in a different direction.
Yep. And you've got a lot of your family involved in the business now too, don't you?
Yes. Yes. So my husband is my producer. He's here running all the
Mr.
technology.
HP. Hey, Kirk.
Mr. H, as they call him. And he, we still do live shows twice a week, just us. And then we have more people on our staff that do other live shows. So lots of interesting quilting content throughout the week. I have actually all three of my children working for me currently, so it's just beautiful, and it's just a big family. The rest of the team is also just feels like family. So that's always a beautiful thing and a wonderful place to be and come to every day.
I agree. I kind of am in that
You
same
have the
boat.
same thing going on.
I don't have both of my kids, but I have my son and my daughter-in-law, so that's like two kids,
Yeah.
and it is really
I know.
nice. So let's talk about techniques. I agree. Your
Yeah.
Stripology rulers are real game changers and time savers. And I wonder if you can just tell us a little bit about how they work and how you use them for making fun quilt patterns.
Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to start with just the big mama, the XL ruler. I have it here on my table, so we'll switch to the overhead view. It is big because the slits go from 0 to 20. So you're able to take your full width fabric, fold it into fourths, and then you cut your strips to whatever pattern you're making. And then you can subcut your squares, rectangles, whatever you need for the pattern. And not have to move the ruler. So the ruler doesn't move on your fabric because of the grip on the underside of the ruler. But then it can do so many other things. You can cut diagonal cuts, 60 degree, 45 degree, diamonds, triangles, parallelograms. It has a square up feature to square up any size block up to 12.5 inches, which I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. So it is fabulous. I did watch your show about your last show about your little remnant pieces of quilted pieces, and I think it's just a beautiful idea because I'm all about using things up. And the ruler is perfect for that because you can cut through the soft and stable quilted with the Stripology ruler. You just want to make sure you have a little bit bigger cutter. So 60 millimeter would be good for that. But normally if I'm cutting just fabric, I just use a 45 millimeter cutter and it's all good. And literally your rotary cutter blade just goes into the slits and it guides your cuts. So every single cut is going to be really accurate. All your strips are going to be the same size. And so it just makes you a much better quilter, more accurate. But the most beautiful part I have heard from our users is the accessibility. It has made it possible for quilters that have any kind of tremors or arthritis issues, sight issues. You can cut again because you can get that blade into the slit and you're going to get a great cut. So that's the XL. Then the next family member, I should say, is the squared, which is same height, but it is shorter. So it's 12.5 inches. This is the one I love to use when I'm working with a lot of squares, squaring up a lot of blocks. So you have that squaring up feature. And then we have two minis. So we have the squared mini, which is similar to this one, just smaller. So you can square up to 12.5 inch blocks on this one, 6.5 inch blocks on this one. So when you're working with smaller things, charm squares or scraps, this one is really great. All those three have slits every 1/2 inch. So you can cut easily anything 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch with all of these rulers. And then the fourth one that just joined the family this past year is called the quarters mini. So this is the same actual size as the mini, but this is the only rule that has 1/4 inch slits. So that means if you're working with anything you need to cut in 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch, it's great, small things. And this is the only ruler where you can square up to a 1/4 inch size. And I'm going to be demonstrating that here a little later. So that's a little overview of the rulers. So obviously I do make quilts. I love to make quilts, big quilts. So I do probably use the big rulers a lot. However, I love the look of small things. So So little blocks, everything when it's smaller, it looks so much cuter. So I have this whole line of patterns called my little patterns. So it's taking some of my bigger blocks that are maybe made with 10-inch squares or back quarters and making them smaller so they work for using 5-inch squares. And I have a lot of those to show you because those guys work perfectly into all kinds of bags. So if you want to have a little bit of a quilting pieced units in parts of your bags, those are really great for that. I actually made one of your bags. So this is the what do we call this one
Drop
again?
zone.
My brain. Drop zone. Yeah. So one of the new ones. And so this pattern is called Little Jojo. And so I just made a big enough, quilted it up with a soft and stable, and made the bag from it. And I tell you, I'm not really the bag maker, but this was really great and fun to be able to incorporate a little bit of fun. And it's really great to use some scraps. So if those of you that are quilters as well, to use some of those scraps up or small, charm packs and things, it gets quite addictive. So let me show you, because I know you tried a little bit, but I wanted to maybe show the viewers how easy these techniques are, even though they look hard because they're so small and everybody thinks it's too hard. So
yeah, I look at that and think I would never want to cut all those pieces, but the way you do it, you don't have to cut all those pieces. So yeah, I can't wait to have you share how that works.
Yes, so I wanted to show you this one. This is called Little Mia, and this is one of our newest little patterns because it uses the new quarters mini ruler. So I have some blocks here just to show you, and I think it'll be really fun for you to see. So this one is one of those that's made with 5-inch squares. So you just start with your 2 squares that you want to have together in a block, and I just stack them right side up. I bring my ruler over, and I have in all my patterns, I will have the illustrations for the Stripology ruler, but I also have instructions to use regular rulers. So you can always use regular. So in this case, I'm just lining up these center lines on the 4 corners of my block or off my squares that I have cut out. And this is the beautiful thing with most of my patterns. If you want to use those pre-cut 5-inch squares, we know they're not always accurate. We of course prefer to cut our own with the rulers, but you have so much give. There's a lot of forgiveness in these patterns, so you can use some of those wonky pieces. You might notice these arrows on my ruler. These are one of the products that I have developed because of the rulers, the G-Easy ruler stickers. They are these arrow stickers. We have 2 packs with 3 different colors each one. And this just is really helpful when you need to line things up a certain way, or I have them marked for where I'm gonna cut. So let's get to it. I have my slits marked. I have my ruler turned to the square upside. And so I make my 2 cuts through. And that means I have 2 triangles. Then I'm gonna set aside. And then I'm gonna take this piece, and I'm just gonna find the center, make a little crease. And I like to just line my center up with a line on my cutting mat so I don't have to really mark it. And then I can use that line to line up with my ruler. So here I have it lined up again. It's centered. And now all I have to do is make the second cuts. I have that marked as well with the red arrow. So I have a different color for my second cut. And so now I have this cut apart like this. All you do is switch the 2 colors to build the block. You start by sewing these pieces to the outside of this one and these to this one. I like to press them opposite, press towards the darker one, so that when you put the blocks together, everything will nest and fit together. And then we just add the triangles to each side. So we're surrounding that rectangle in the middle like that, and we press it opposite. So we would have a block like this. Yes, it looks a little wonky and funny, but no worries. But as you can see, cutting out these pieces, you're not wasting any part of that 5-inch square at this
Wow,
point.
that's amazing.
So now I have my block and it looks really wonky. Don't worry. So this is the square so all the squares, they alternate in this ruler, white and black. So I find the size that I'm going to be squaring to. And then all I do, I mark that square with my arrows just to know where to line up so I can make sure my fabric's all the inside. Now this rectangle here in the middle, I have these diagonal lines that I can make sure go right through the center. And then I just make my 2 cuts. So this one is a 3 3/4. So I just find the 3 3/4 slit. I make 2 cuts and turn my block, and I repeat on the other side. Again, centering everything, and now I have horizontal lines to line up, and I make my 2 cuts again. And I have a perfectly squared up block. So when they come together, you can just alternate the way they are pressed, and they're all gonna nest when they come together. So this is little Mia.
That is so cute and so easy.
Right? Yeah. That is what everybody thinks. These little blocks, they're so cute, are going to be so hard, but they really are not. If you have, well, I would say the tools really help. The rulers really help and make everything so much easier. You know, with a grip on the underside, it also holds your fabric and holds your blocks just in place when you're doing the squaring up. And so you always end up with a really great.
And keeping that ruler there and doing both sides at once so you don't have to remeasure. That is such a time saver and so much good accuracy too.
Exactly. Remember when you're squaring up a block with a square ruler that's, you know, dancing on top of your seams and it's hard to keep it still and you have to cut this way and this way, it's almost impossible to get a good, nice square block. And we're always cutting away from us vertically with the Stripology rulers, holding everything in place. And the beautiful thing with the slits is what it does, they will just lift up wherever there is thickness in your block and just kind of curve around that and still keep your block really nice and flat. So it works really well for embroidery or anything where you have thickness in your units. So we love that. Now, I can show you some more ideas if you're intrigued by these. Now,
I definitely am. Please do.
Yeah, so we have this one here next. This is Little Saga, which is also one of my newer ones, and it is made with that the new ruler, the quarters mini. And, you know, again, tiny pieces. You might think that it's hard, but it really isn't, because it's all broken down in steps. And I have some pieces here just to show, here are the blocks before they get squared up. And you start with these units, you cut the center out, you add the little piece. Again, we're not wasting any part of the 5-inch square. And then we would layer them together, cut them apart, and sew them back together. So then you end up with that shape, pressing, of course, opposite, so everything fits together when the block comes together after we square up. So
that's awesome. Can I interrupt just for a minute? So I didn't have a chance to play with these this week, but Teresa did, and she did the Little Saga pattern and made a bunch of blocks and then put them together, and she's going to use this to make a clam up, which I think is going to make just an amazingly elegant bag. But yeah, she said the thing that she really had to learn was that there's one side that's a square up size and one side that's the other cutting side, and having something to mark those little grooves, like you said, made a huge difference.
Yes. I need to send you some ruler stickers for sure.
I can see that those would make a huge difference just looking at the rulers you had there, because it is, you really have to pay attention, and that just makes it so you don't have to think. And I'm all for not having to think all the time.
Right. They're great because when I designed them, I wanted to make sure that they leave no residue on your rulers or whatever you're putting it on. You can repaint from them. You can leave them on for days, weeks, years. It's not going to leave any residue. So that's what's
really
beautiful
nice.
about them. You can just leave it on your ruler
Yeah,
until
no
you're done
kidding.
with the project.
All
Sometimes,
right,
you know, it
I'm
takes-
sorry I interrupted you. Keep showing us
No, that's all good.
more.
Yeah, I have one. I wanted to show you this one because it is a free pattern. So if anybody wanted to try, now this one uses just the small, the originals mini ruler, the squared mini. It's called Little Kim, and it's free on our website. So you guys can go right and try this pattern. I actually played with some blocks with that one that I want to put into a bag, and I'll show you that here a little bit later. But these are going to be a strip that I'm going to put into one of your project bags. But I have some other fun techniques to show you about that one. So that one is fun to try. These are all, again, started off using 5-inch squares. And then this is called Little Diana. Very simple. If you have not done much quilting, this is a great one to try and start off with. Very easy. If you have something a little bit bigger, you can do something very graphic like Little Nelly, which is really fun. And you can play so much with the colors on that one. And then we have Little Helena.
That's pretty.
This one I love too. That would be cool to make like a pocket or something, or a whole panel. I also love the idea of putting Little Alberta in a bag. I just think that would be adorable. Something like that. I mean, a bag or a jacket. I mean, either or would be great. And then I think another one that would be really great because it's smaller blocks. This is Little Roxy. Now, the pattern, of course, is written with a border, but you could just keep making blocks to whatever size you need. But these would be perfect for like a bag. I just think that would be really fun.
Does that one start with charm squares too, like 5-inch squares?
Yeah.
Great.
All of them start with 5-inch squares, or you can, of course, cut your own. So all of these do, and here's another colorway just to see the difference if you want it something more colorful. These are all low volumes that we paired them with, so it looks great. Fun for, it's of course Christmas. And then I think this one was your favorite when we were in Norway, the Little Trixie.
Yes.
So, yeah. Now this one has, the only extra fabric you have to have is that little strip. And I've done this with, this one I just used the same fabric throughout, and I used it for the binding as well. So you could totally coordinate that in a bag. Or you can do this scrappy as well, but it's really fun, this one. You were telling me that that's your hard thing you struggle with the most is coming up with the fabrics.
Yes, I mean, I would have had a project made today because to me, sewing the bag is not a big deal. Even making the blocks didn't look that hard, but picking the fabrics. I'm used to picking a main, a lining, and a coordinate, so I have to pick 3 basic fabrics. And when I looked at all those fun designs and all those colors, it's like, I don't even know where to start. So can you talk a little bit about how you choose fabrics and give us some tips on that?
That's my favorite thing ever. And when I started quilting way back, I'm not even going to tell you how long ago that was, but I fell in love with fabric. I love fabric, and I love all the different kinds. So I love to create patterns that are just geometric, so you can use any kind, any type, any style of fabric you want. It's going to make the quilt look totally different. But I've always loved to include lots of different fabrics, so having that scrappy element. So that's one of the things that we specialize in on our website is we put together fabric bundles. So we sell half-yard bundles, which are, of course, great for quilts. So I can show you an example. I'll take these quilts away here. And so this is an example of our half-yard bundle. So it's 12 half-yards, which is great because it's 6 yards of fabric. It can get you a long way in making a quilt. And so they're all coordinated. Sometimes they're all from the same fabric line, but I pick and choose so that in your bundle, you have a balanced color. So you have equal amounts of each color because so many times those pre-cuts you get maybe 16 blues and then 4 yellows and 3 reds. It's just never balanced. So that's my thing with scrappy quilts. You have to stay balanced. Here's another one that I showed you. I made the little Mia blocks from. So we have kind of the lighter side and then the darker side. So everything will look great in a quilt. But then for my little patterns, we created what we call little bundles. So these is our solution for charm packs. These fabrics, so you get 12 different fabrics, and they are 6 inches by 21, so half width. So which means those that like to pre-wash, they can pre-wash the fabric and still cut their own 5-inch squares with, of course, the Stripology Rulers and get really nice, accurate squares. But on top of that, you get a 1/4 yard of a coordinate. So these little bundles, we call them bundles because it's not really a kit, because you can use these for anything, any of my little patterns for the most part. If it's a pattern that needs contrast, there are some that have like lights and darks. Here is, this one is exactly the one we used for our cover quilt, the little Saga. So there is your little strip for little Trixie, all in there. And you can use that. You can use that 1/4 yard for binding or a little border or an accent or whatever. So this is what people have loved. It's just all coordinated, ready to go, but it's also balanced. So like in this one, there's equal amounts of the 3 colors.
So if somebody is wanting to pull from their stash, is that kind of what you look for, is coordinating colors but not too much of one, kind of equal amounts of all of them? Okay. And
yeah, balanced.
And do you do a variety of scales, or when you're doing something really small like that, do you stick more with just little small scale fabrics?
That's a little bit of a personal preference. I tend to love sometimes when we have a big scale fabric and then you cut it small and you can just see parts of it. It just creates a really artsy, cool vibe to it. But some people don't like that. But we tend to do both. Some, of course, fabric lines have a smaller scale, so they work really well for those little patterns that everything really shows up. But if you're pulling from your stash, I do all these series on my live shows. So I call it matchmaking, and that is like matching your fabric with your pattern. So depending on your pattern, is it a pattern that is just a scrappy goodness? So as many colors you can throw at it is still going to look great. Or is it a pattern that needs maybe a one focus, like that Trixie with that little strip that needs to stand out? So then you have scrappy with focus, and you pick that focus fabric to stand out from everything else. So I have a lot of patterns that kind of fall into that. And then going on and on, you have a scrappy with background. Maybe you want a background that's constant and then just have lots of colors. So just the key is having balance in those scrappiness so that you have equal amounts of the reds and the blues and the yellows. And so it's going to harmonize, but be scrappy, which gives your quilt so much more interest and textures. And within those prints, you have some florals, you have some geometrics, maybe if you're daring, having a little directional ones, but just having that variety gives your quilt life, in my opinion. That's just because I love all the fabrics.
Well, that is such good advice too. And I know in the quilts you showed, the one that had like that secondary pattern that was created with that gray that made the background, and then the one that had the black behind all the scrappy blocks, just really made those scrappy blocks stand out. And I totally agree. I can see those, as you said, for the full body on a thing. I can see them as a border on a pocket, you know, as just a strip along part of it. There are so many ways that you can use those. Did you say you were going to show us something about a project bag?
Yes. One more. So because, you know, I'm known for this quilt as you go, I thought quilt as you go is so easy to do on your beautiful, soft and stable. So I am working on a project bag. So that is just one big piece of soft and stable depending on the bag. So I decided I'm going to have this pieced section on the front. You know, there's one segment before you do the vinyl. But then I thought, why don't I do something fun with the actual panel and do a quilt as you go. So I just took one of the blocks, put it in the center, and then I started piecing around it through the layers. I actually started by piecing my other side, and I did that quilt as you go. So I just had this white strips, and it's a stitch and flip. So I had my back pieced. You could, of course, do that in one fabric. I just wanted to use up what I had. And
Great
then
idea.
I just kept going around. So this is, you would just, and this needs no measuring. You just have strips, you cut them to the length so they extend off, and then sew down using your walking foot, ideally. And then you just press out and you keep going. And I think this is going to be such a fun panel in this project bag.
Oh, it's
I think
going
I'll
to be
have it on the
awesome.
back because I'm going to have projects in it. So
Yeah, I would
have it
put
on the
that
back
on the
so you can
back
really show it.
and then
Yeah.
maybe, like you said, make some of those smaller blocks to be the
Yeah,
border
have
on
that.
the front.
Yeah, have that on one side here in the front. Yeah, I'm excited about that. Now, if anybody wants to check out some of my Quilt As You Go, I have a lot of Quilt As You Go patterns. I have a club called Fast and Furious Club that has been running for 4 years. And this was kind of a play on one of those. So that club comes with a downloadable pattern and a video class where I take you through the whole process of making it. So that's an example of one of those. This would be cool in a bag too. So
Yeah, no kidding.
that was really fun. Really, really fun. And I wanted to mention too, if people want to learn about the Stripology Rulers, my latest book, Master Your Stripology Rulers book, is a great resource. Even if you have a ruler and you don't really know how to use it to the fullest, the book will show you, even here on the first page, talk about the different ones. There are QR codes throughout the book where you can scan. It takes you right to the video explaining what they do. We have our charts in there for our 1/4 inch increments, 1/8 inch increments. I have my speedy methods of making half square triangles, saving steps, and then 1/4 square triangles. Shows you, there's just a few fun projects that I was going to mention because some of these would be great just to practice on and use then in a bag. Cutting the angles. So we have the 60-degree triangles, and like here's the runner that I made with that. That
Ooh,
would
I
be
love
gorgeous
that.
in a bag.
Mm-hmm.
There's also cutting 45-degree angles with another runner, or I mean, it doesn't have to be a runner. It can be anything. Here's that one. That one would be really fun in a bag as well.
For sure.
And then we have our flying geese method, the G-Easy flying geese, or what my students have called now the no crying flying geese. So it has all those methods in there and some fun projects. So that's a great way. I know there's so many people that have the ruler and don't really know how to use it to the fullest and all the things that they can do, because when you start using them, learn how to use them, you don't really use anything else.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. What a great place to start. I think I may have to get that book too. So other than getting that book and doing it, do you have other tips that you would recommend for people who want to maybe combine some of your techniques with some of our projects?
Yeah, I mean, start some of the simpler ones, like the free Little Kim pattern is really easy. Just that square and a square, and it's a floating square, so it's very forgiving. You're not going to lose your points. Try that first and start small. If you already do your own quilting, it's fun to play with. I quilted a lot of these runners just on my domestic machine, so it's easy to do. And so I think just go for it. We as quilters and crafters just love trying different things. I think most of us. So don't be afraid. Play with it.
Well, and the great thing about those too is when you're working with blocks like that, the quilting is going to be super easy because you'll basically just follow the block line, stitch in the ditch, and it takes that kind of angst away, that you're not looking at a piece of blank fabric and trying to decide where to start. So that's all really good advice. I also know that you do a lot of tutorials, and you mentioned your sew-alongs. Can you let people know how they can find all of your resources and your videos and stuff?
Yes. So our live shows we have our Tipsy Tuesday show. Well, there's our website, gequiltdesigns.com. where you find all of our products and links to the shows and lots of videos. I sell a lot of products that include a video, how-to videos. So like classes, online classes and things like that. But our live shows that are always free on YouTube and Facebook. Tipsy Tuesday is on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. I always have a tip of the day. We are working on like a block of the month. And we answer questions live as you do, share inspiration, really fun. And then my other show is Happy Friday, every Friday at noon. It is celebrating Fridays around here. So that's a little more lighthearted. We always share what's new in the store as well. And we celebrate with a cocktail, cocktail
I
recipe
remember
every
that.
week.
I remember that. Yeah.
So for something to have
Let's see,
fun with.
noon
It's
your
one of my
time is
hobbies.
only 10 a.m. our time. That might be a little, I may have
I
to
know.
watch it after the fact and enjoy the cocktail along
you
with
can just
you.
write down the recipe. We also have, I always try and give, the virgin version of the drink as well. If it can translate easily just to make a virgin. Because sometimes I have things to do in the afternoon and my drink is just a virgin.
Virgin.
I have to drive somewhere or do some taping and then, yeah.
Well, you
But
definitely
it's really fun.
you definitely know how to make it fun and how to make it easy and really
Yeah,
awesome looking. So I want to
think
look
it's
at
because-
Go
Sorry.
ahead.
No, I just think it's because, quilting, sewing, crafting is our hobby. So I think it should be fun and not frustrating. And you do the same thing with your techniques for these bags. I was always scared, but you just make it so easy for us that are scared of it. And it should be fun. We shouldn't be tediously pulling out our hair over some points not matching. So.
Yeah, and designing it so they don't have to makes such a difference.
Exactly.
So
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
Thank you for doing that. It looks like we've got some questions from viewers up here.
Yeah.
So the first one is, do the Stripology Rulers have a grippy anti-slip surface on the back?
Yes. And I made sure when we were designing them that they have that grip in between every slit. So covering the whole backside pretty much of the ruler so it won't slide on your fabrics. And then also when you cut through the slits, they are tight enough to make your cuts really accurate and they won't move because they have that grip between each and every one.
Oh, that's awesome. I wasn't aware of that. I obviously haven't used it that much. Go back, it looks like a couple others. Oh, another question was, I saw you squaring this way. Do you ever use a rotary cutting mat so that you turn it as you go around
mat?
and just, or do you just go from both sides?
I have done that. So the turntable ones would work great for the smaller rulers. With the bigger rulers, it is hard to find a big enough mat. And even the ones that just turn, 90 degrees at a time, I've found that I'm just faster lifting up my ruler, picking up my block, turning it, and wiping the scraps away versus turning and reconfiguring. I don't know. That's just my tendency. But if you love a rotating mat, there are certain patterns that I do where you have to maybe make cuts and you don't want to move the pieces before when you turn it. So then I recommend rotating mat or just rotating your mat as well.
Or cutting on the corner of a table where you can walk to the other
Going
side
around
and
the
do
corner.
it from that side.
Yes.
I've been known
Yeah.
to do that. All right, next
absolutely. Me too.
question was, are your patterns available as PDFs or are they all printed?
Both. So
Both.
we both have PDFs and most of my patterns are PDFs and just in paper if you want them in paper. So the little ones this is the little format. They all come on one page, so you never lose a page in your pattern. And the bigger patterns do that too. I also have a lot of books. So I have I think I just turned my 25th book into the printer last week.
Wow.
So we have a new one coming.
That's impressive.
I'll show you a sneak peek of the cover. It's this is a project book for Stripology All Quilts. So a little bit bigger because it's called Stripology Quickies. So they're all quick quilts to make from half-yard cuts or fat quarters.
Oh, I love that quilt on the front. See, I could picture
so
that
a lot
on a
of them
bag
might
too.
become minis. A lot of
Yeah.
those might become littles, and that'll be cute.
That's going to be awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Gudrun, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise. I know that our customers really like detailed, well-finished designs. Your techniques are going to really make them more appealing and accessible. And we really loved hearing how you would take your projects and combine them with our techniques. So thank you so much. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to add or remind people about?
I just wanted to thank you so much for, well, first of all, being my friend. We have so much fun every time we get to hang out, and that was a really special time in Norway. But thank you for having me on and allowing us to introduce your viewers to the world of stripology. So it's just been really fun. So I hope maybe somebody can come and visit us on a Happy Friday or a Tipsy Tuesday and see what we got going on.
Sounds like a wonderful idea. Thank you so much, and I'll look forward to seeing you in Houston. Are you going to be there for Market and Festival?
Yep, we will be there.
All right. We're all
Can't
killing
wait.
ourselves trying to be ready, but we'll come dragging in one way or the other.
Exactly.
Great. Thank you again. We'll see you there.
Okay, thank
or
you.
Or before that on Tipsy Tuesday or Fun Friday.
I love it.
Bye-bye. All right, well, I hope you all enjoyed meeting Gudrun and learning about GE Designs and her techniques. As always, remember, ask for her patterns and supplies at your local quilt shop because they are such an important part of our sewing and quilting communities. It's up to all of us to keep them strong and vibrant. And if they don't have them, I know all of her things are carried by distributors. Any of our patterns also are our patterns and supplies, or if they're ByAnnie products and supplies, they can come directly to us, and we're always happy to set up wholesale accounts for qualified stores. So just have them contact us and we'll give them all the information. Be sure to stay tuned at the end of this episode to see our video clip of Old Town Quilt Shop. We're back to getting our local quilt shop features done, and they were the regional winner for California in this year's LQS contest. So we've already featured them on our blog and on social media, and my friend Linda, who helped me figure out how to get the fabrics for last week's episode all cut and ready to go, works at that store. So they have numerous ByAnnie models plus a good supply of our patterns and products in the store all the time, so be sure to stop in and say hi to them and tell them Annie sent you. And thank you again to everyone who joined us today. We are going to be back next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Mountain Time with another really fun episode of Live with Annie. We are going to be visiting with Billy Rue, who is an architect, artist, quilter, and free spirit fabric designer. It is sure to be a really interesting conversation, so mark your calendar now, and until then, happy stitching!
Hi, I'm Teresa Coates of ByAnnie.com and Patterns by Annie. Today we are visiting Old Town Quilt Shop in Orcutt, California, the regional winner for California in the 2024 LQS contest. Originally opened in 2005, the well-loved Old Town Quilt Shop was bought by current owner Michelle Strunke in 2015. In 2016, her daughter Stacy joined the team. Since then, they have grown like crazy, expanding their offerings of fabrics, notions, and classes, while nurturing the sense of community among the local quilters. Michelle had been quilting for several decades by the time that she bought the Old Town Quilt Shop. Stacy, on the other hand, had been focused on her career in retail. So, Stacy learned how to quilt when she joined the team, and Michelle learned lots about opening a retail shop. Together, they have filled their 1,400 square foot building with bright, modern fabrics, lots of fun notions, and patterns for everything from ByAnnie bags to quilts and apparel. The Old Town Quilt Shop is run by a small crew of quilting enthusiasts: Dolores, Linda, Michelle, and Stacy. Dolores is their resident color expert and teaches beginners. Linda loves handwork and paper piecing, and she's even a ByAnnie pattern tester. We appreciate her thoughtful input and eagle eyes. This very creative staff has made a large number of samples that are displayed throughout the shop and the clubhouse to inspire you. Together with their devoted customers, they have built a community of quilters in the Central Coast region of California. This shines through in their comments during our local quilt shop contest. Shannon told us, as a beginner, all of my moments in the shop are special. They are always willing to guide me. Patricia shared, it is such a beautiful little store, simple, but abundantly stocked with beautiful fabrics. In addition to their fabulous staff, Old Town Quilt Shop is known for their wonderful classroom that is adjacent to the store. Lovingly called the Clubhouse, it has everything that you'd want. Design walls, ironing boards, cutting tables, plus large sewing tables for each participant. There's even a kitchen and plenty of parking. The Clubhouse is the perfect setting for hands-on workshops and guild retreats and is available for rent too. Old Town Quilt Shop has a full schedule of classes, including ByAnnie bag classes, of course. Be sure to check the calendar often and sign up for their newsletter to keep up to date on all the latest information. This year, Old Town Quilt Shop really spread the word about the LQS contest. Not only did they win for California, they also grew their class numbers and new customers found them. Michelle said that they received many compliments from customers saying that they were glad the shop had such a large selection of ByAnnie products, in fact, the largest in the area. The Central Coast of California is a beautiful place to visit, so make sure to visit the Santa Maria Valley, known for their strawberries, orchards, and special Santa Maria-style barbecue tri-tip. Everyone can find something that they love there. There are wine tastings at local vineyards, boutique and antique shops, and the world-famous Pismo Beach is only a half an hour away. I so enjoyed learning more about Old Town Quilt Shop and hope that you did too. If you live near them or are planning a visit to the Central California coast, be sure to stop in and check them out. I'll be adding them to my list for sure. Until next time, happy stitching.